Evan lay on the soft alien mat, his eyes closed, his breathing slow and calm. To anyone watching, he looked completely asleep. But inside, his mind was wide awake, sharp, alert, and filled with questions he had carried for days. He never planned to pretend to sleep around 3 alien sisters. But tonight, he had no choice. These sisters were different. They watched him, whispered about him, acted strangely whenever he entered the room. Their glowing skin patterns shifted colors. Their long hair-like tendrils moved with emotion, and their quiet voices carried meaning that humans were not supposed to understand. But Evan understood enough to know one thing: they were hiding something. Something about him, so he closed his eyes. He slowed his breath. He became still, waiting. The room was almost silent. Only the warmth of the alien lamps glowed in gentle blue light. For a moment, he wondered if the sisters even noticed him. But then, soft footsteps entered the room, light and careful, like someone trying not to disturb him. The first sister, Lyra, spoke in a whisper. "He is asleep." Again. Her voice held curiosity, but also something softer, something emotional. Evan kept his face relaxed, fighting the urge to smile. The second sister, Sira, moved closer. Her steps were slower, thoughtful. "Look at him," she murmured. "Humans sleep so peacefully, so open." Evan felt a slight touch on his arm, soft, warm, gentle. Sira was studying him. She always studied him. He tried not to react, but the touch sent a shock through his chest. The third sister, Vea, stayed quiet at first. She was the youngest, the one who avoided looking directly at him. Tonight, however, her voice broke the silence. "Do you think he knows?" Evan's heart jumped. Knows what? What were they hiding? Lyra stepped closer. Evan sensed her shadow over his face. "No," she whispered. "Humans cannot hear our low speech." "He hears nothing." She was wrong. Evan had spent hours training himself to recognize their soft tones. He didn't understand every word, but he understood enough, and, right now, their voices were clear. Sira crouched near his head. "His skin is warm today." "Maybe he is stressed," she said softly. "Warm? Stressed?" No, he was just trying not to blush. Vea finally walked near him. Even with his eyes closed, Evan felt the air shift when she leaned close. "He helped us again today," she said gently. "He protects us without asking for anything," Lyra replied, her tone deeper. "That is why we must be careful. A human with a loyal heart is rare. Our tribe values such things, their tribe." He had heard rumors, but they never told him the full truth. Suddenly, Sira lifted his hand. Evan felt her fingers trace his palm slowly, studying the lines of his skin. "Human hands are strange," she whispered, "but his feel safe. Safe." He almost opened his eyes right there. Vea moved around him and spoke with soft fear in her voice. "What if he leaves one day?" "Humans always leave." Evan felt something twist inside his chest, guilt, maybe sadness. He didn't want them to think that. Lyra answered firmly. "He will stay. I can feel it. His heart speaks louder than his words." Then she whispered something that made Evan's breath stop for a moment. "He does not know how special he is to us." Special. To them? The room went quiet for a long moment. Evan felt his heartbeat in his ears. Then Sira said something that made his body heat rise fast. "We should test his honesty. When he wakes up, test." "How? Why?" Vea hesitated, but agreed. "If he fails, we cannot trust him. But if he passes, he may be the one we've been waiting for, the one they were waiting for." Evan struggled to keep his breathing steady. The sisters stepped back, whispering among themselves. Their glowing skin flickered with nervous colors, soft pink, worried blue, hopeful gold. Evan stayed still. pretending to sleep, but inside he knew everything had changed. They were planning something for him, something serious, something emotional, and he was not ready before leaving the room. Lyra whispered one last line that sent chills down his spine. "Tomorrow we will tell him the truth, whether he is ready or not." Evan's eyes stayed closed, but his heart was no longer calm. Evan woke up the next morning pretending nothing was strange. He stretched his arms, blinked slowly, and acted like a man who had slept peacefully the whole night. Not like someone who had overheard 3 alien sisters discussing him, touching him, studying him, and planning a test for him. The sisters were already awake. They stood near the large window of their shelter, their glowing skin shifting between calm blue and curious silver. They looked normal, but Evan could feel it. Something was different. They were watching him more closely today. "Good morning," he said softly. All 3 sisters froze. Via quickly looked away, her tendrils glowing bright pink embarrassment. Sira stared at him too long before remembering to smile. Lyra tilted her head like she was studying every tiny movement he made. Evan tried not to laugh. "So they are acting strange today." He moved toward the table where alien fruits were arranged. When he reached for one, Sira suddenly stepped in front of him. "Wait," she said quickly. I cut this one for you." She handed him a perfectly sliced piece, her hands slightly shaking. Evan blinked. "Since when does she cut fruit for me?" "Thank you," he said calmly. Sira's skin flashed gold for a second, proud, happy. She hurried back to her sisters, whispering something in their low speech. Evan couldn't catch the words, but he saw Via peek at him again, trying to hide a smile. Lyra stepped forward next. "We have plans today," she announced. "Oh," Evan asked, taking a bite. "Yes, important plans," she added. Narrowing her eyes as if challenging him to react, Evan kept his expression neutral. "Well, I'm ready. Whatever you need." All 3 sisters exchanged a look, one of surprise and nervous excitement. Evan's stomach tightened. Is this the test they talked about? To hide his worry, he walked outside to check the shelter's energy panels. The morning air was cool, and the alien sky shimmered with soft lavender light. As he worked, he soon realized he wasn't alone. Via was standing behind him, watching, not talking, not moving. Just watching. Evan turned. "Everything okay?" Vaya's eyes widened, and she looked away instantly. "I was checking if you needed help." He smiled. "I'm fine. But thank you." She nodded quickly, then took 2 steps back, like a startled animal. Her glowing tendrils flickered bright pink, again deep embarrassment. Evan returned to work. But after a few seconds, he felt something else. The air shifted again. He turned. Sira was there, holding something. "Evan," she said, voice nervous but serious. "We want to understand humans better." "Oh." He wiped his hands. "How can I help?" Sira hesitated. She lifted a small stone-like device. "This is a memory scanner. We want to read one of your dreams." Evan almost choked. What? My dreams?" The sisters stepped closer, their eyes glowing with curiosity. "Yes," Lyra said calmly. "Human dreams show truth. We wish to see it." A nightmare flashed in Evan's mind, the time he nearly lost his crew. The fear, the guilt. No, they can't see that. He forced a smile. "My dreams are boring," he said quickly. "Mostly me falling or missing a door." The sisters studied him with suspicious eyes. Sira said softly, "Maybe later." Evan breathed out slowly. That was close. When they walked away, he overheard a whisper in alien low speech. "He is hiding something." His heart nearly stopped. "They almost caught me." Later, the sisters gathered around a glowing stone map. When Evan joined them, they suddenly stopped talking. Everything all right? He asked. Yes, Lyra said swiftly. We were discussing the weather. Vea nodded too fast. Very windy today. Evan looked outside. There was absolutely no wind. He tried not to smile as the sisters avoided eye contact. They were terrible liars. After a while, Sierra stepped closer again. Evan, can you lift heavy things? Depends on the thing, he replied. She pointed toward a large metal container. We want to see your strength. Ah, another test. Evan walked to the container, lifted it with effort, and set it down. The sisters watched him with glowing admiration. He is strong, Vea whispered. He is careful too, Sierra added. Lyra studied his movement closely. And he listens. This is rare. Evan pretended not to hear that. As evening approached, the sisters finally gathered around him again. Their glowing bodies formed a soft circle around him. Lyra stepped forward with serious eyes. Tomorrow, she said, we begin the real test. Evan swallowed. The real one? Yes, Vea whispered. It will tell us if we can trust you. Completely. Evan forced a calm smile. But inside, he was burning with tension. Because he already knew tomorrow. Morning came slowly, with the alien sky glowing soft orange and violet. Evan sat at the edge of the shelter, pretending to enjoy the view. In reality, his stomach twisted with worry. Today was the real test. The sisters talked about a test he knew nothing about. A test he wasn't prepared for. Inside the shelter, the three alien sisters whispered in their low voices. Their glowing skin flickered like nervous flames. Every few seconds, one of them peeked at him, then quickly looked away. Finally, Lyra stepped outside. Her posture was straight. Her eyes were serious. Evan, she said. It is time. Evan stood. For the test? Yes. Sierra and Vea joined her. All three sisters walked together, guiding Evan through the alien forest path. The trees glowed softly, their leaves shimmering like tiny crystals. Strange bird-like creatures flew overhead, singing in tones humans weren't meant to understand, but Evan couldn't enjoy any of it. His mind kept repeating the same thought. What if I fail? The sisters stopped at a circular stone platform deep in the forest. Vea touched the center of the stone, and glowing blue symbols appeared around them. A soft hum filled the air. This is the Stone of Echoes, Sierra explained quietly. The stone. That listens. Lyra added. Evan blinked. Listens to what? To the truth, Vea whispered. A cold chill ran down Evan's back. Lyra stepped forward. This stone reflects the true heart of anyone who stands upon it. No lies, no hiding. Evan froze. If he stepped on that stone, would it reveal that he pretended to sleep? That he overheard everything? That he already knew their fears and their feelings? Sierra's voice broke his thoughts. We only ask one thing. Step onto the stone. And answer one question? What question? Evan asked carefully. Lyra looked directly into his eyes. The glowing patterns on her skin pulsed like a heartbeat. Why do you stay with us? She asked. Evan's breath caught in his chest. That was it. Just that? But the problem wasn't the question, it was the stone. What if the stone showed more than he said? What if it revealed last night's secret? What if they learned he heard everything? He swallowed hard. Still, he stepped onto the stone. The ground beneath him warmed. A soft blue light rose under his feet, circling around him like threads of energy. The stone was awake. Lyra spoke again, her voice firm but gentle. Why do you stay with us, Evan? He looked at each sister, Lyra with her strong and calm presence, Sierra with her analytical eyes and worried smile, Vea with her shy kindness. Ivan took a breath. I stay because you needed help, and I could help. The stone glowed faint blue. Truth accepted. Sira stepped closer. But you could leave now. You are not trapped. You are not bound. Still, you remain. Why? Evan hesitated. This answer was harder. He searched his heart. He remembered their kindness, their trust, their fear of being alone. He remembered Vaya's trembling voice, Sira's gentle touch, Lyra's protective words. I stay because. Evan said slowly, I care about you. The stone glowed brighter warm gold. Truth again. The sisters exchanged surprised glances. Vaya's skin glowed pink. Sira touched her chest as if feeling her heartbeat. Lyra looked down, her expression softening for the first time. But then, the stone reacted again. A sudden flash of white light burst beneath Evan's feet. The sisters gasped. The stone was revealing hidden truths, something Evan did not speak. A soft voice echoed from the stone itself. He heard them. Evan's blood ran cold. The sisters froze. Sira stepped back in shock. He heard us. Via's face turned bright red with embarrassment. All of it. Lyra walked toward him slowly, her expression unreadable. You pretended to sleep, she said quietly. You listened to us. Evan opened his mouth, but no words came out. The stone had exposed him completely. Sira's voice trembled. So you know what we said, what we feel, what we fear. Evan nodded weakly. Vaya covered her face with her hands. Oh no, oh no. Lyra looked at him hurt, confused, but also something else. Something deeper. Why didn't you tell us? She asked softly. Evan took a breath. Because I didn't want you to feel exposed. I didn't want to break the trust we were building. The stone glowed warm gold again. Truth. Silence fell around them. The sisters looked at him differently now, with suspicion, but with deeper understanding. They realized he wasn't playing with their feelings. He wasn't mocking their whispers. He wasn't using their secrets against them. He stayed. He cared, and he listened, because he wanted to understand them. Slowly, Lyra reached forward and placed her hand on his arm. The test, she whispered, is already complete. Sira nodded. Vaya peeked at him shyly, and for the first time since he met them. Evan felt the walls between them truly break. The alien forest around them was silent, as if even the wind was waiting to hear what would happen next. The glowing stone of echoes dimmed slowly, its job complete. Evan stood frozen on its surface, unsure whether to apologize, explain, or simply run away. The sisters stared at him, not angry, not afraid. Just stunned, Lyra was the first to move. She stepped closer, her calm voice trembling for the first time since Evan had met her. You should have told us. Evan lowered his eyes. I know, but I didn't want to embarrass you. Sira's glowing skin flickered between silver and pink. She walked around him in slow steps, studying him from every angle like she was analyzing something new. So all those moments, when we whispered, when we stood close, when we examined your face, Evan swallowed. Yes, I heard everything. Sira covered her mouth, mortified. Oh, stars. Vaya just hid behind Lyra, her tendrils curling in pure panic. Evan stepped down from the stone and raised his hands gently. I wasn't trying to spy. I just wanted to understand why you acted differently when you thought I wasn't watching. Lyra frowned. We acted differently because we were trying to understand you. That surprised him. Me? Yes, you, Sarah said, finally lowering her hand. Humans confuse us. You help without demands. You protect without reason. You smile even when you are afraid. We didn't know how to approach you, Via added softly. Our tribe has no one like you. Evan blinked. No one like me. What does that even mean? The sisters stepped closer, forming a half circle. Their glowing skin shimmered with soft colors, now pink for embarrassment, blue for honesty, gold for hope. Lyra's voice grew calm again. The stone showed that you care for us. That was the real answer we needed. Evan felt heat rise to his face. Yeah, well, it's true. He wasn't expecting Syrah to suddenly step forward and press her forehead gently against his shoulder, gesture he recognized as alien gratitude. You listened to our fears, she whispered, even though you had no reason to. Vea peeked from behind Lyra and added, you did not laugh at us. Lyra placed a hand on his arm, firm and warm. And you stayed, even after hearing our secrets. Evan took a slow breath. For what it's worth, I didn't want to hurt you, or break your trust. You did not break it, Lyra replied softly. You only confused it. Fiend laughed weakly. That sounds fair. The atmosphere between them felt lighter now, but still fragile, like a quiet moment before an emotional storm. The sisters led him back toward the shelter, walking side by side, this time instead of ahead of him. Their formation felt different, more open, more trusting. When they reached the clearing, Vea suddenly stepped in front of him. Evan, she whispered, her voice trembling. Can you close your eyes again? He raised an eyebrow. Why? So we can do things properly this time. Lyra gave a small, approving nod. We want to show you something, but only if you trust us. Evan hesitated. The last time he closed his eyes around them, he overheard things he probably wasn't supposed to. But this time, it felt different. It felt like an invitation, not a secret. He nodded slowly. All right, I trust you. He closed his eyes, but unlike last time, he wasn't pretending. He was actually trusting them. He felt movement around him, soft footsteps, warm hands, gentle touches checking his arms, his shoulders, his heartbeat. But this time, he didn't feel like a man hiding a truth. This time, he felt like part of something important. He heard whispers, again quiet but clear. He is calmer now. He trusts us. He is not afraid. Another voice, Vea, spoke softly near his left side. He looks peaceful, like this, Syrah whispered from his right. His heartbeat is steady. Then Lyra's voice. Closest of all, he is ready. Evan opened his eyes slowly. The sisters stood before him, glowing brighter than he had ever seen. Their expressions were open, unguarded, vulnerable in a way he couldn't have imagined. Lyra stepped forward. Evan, now that you have truly woken up, we can begin the next part. Next part? He asked carefully. Syrah nodded. Yes. The ritual of truth was only the first step, Vea added. Now we show you why we needed you. Evan felt the tension return to his chest. What exactly do you need me for? The sisters exchanged a look. Then Lyra finally answered, for our survival. The words hit him harder than any stone. His heartbeat quickened. The forest seemed to grow quieter, almost holding its breath. Whatever came next. It was no small request. It was something life-changing, and Evan knew. Evan followed the sisters deeper into the glowing forest, unsure what survival meant or why he was important. The path grew brighter as they walked, lined with luminous flowers that opened as the sisters passed. Their presence activated the forest itself. Yet Evan felt like the center of their attention. Finally, they reached a place unlike any he had seen, a circular clearing with tall crystal pillars rising from the ground. Soft wind hummed through them, creating gentle tones that sounded like a distant choir. Syrah stepped forward. This is the sanctum of truth, Vea added quietly. Our tribe uses it only when trust is needed. Real trust? Lyra turned to Evan. And today, we need yours. Evan's stomach tightened. What do I have to do? Lyra raised her hand, and the crystal pillars responded, vibrating softly until a blue dome of light formed around them. Evan felt the hair on his arms lift from the energy. "You only speak honestly," Lyra said, "and we will do the same." Evan nodded, though his throat felt tight. He was ready, or at least he hoped he was. The sisters formed a triangle around him, leaving him in the center. Their glowing skin shifted into soft golden hue, symbol of openness. He had learned. The air felt warmer, almost comforting. Sarah was the first to step forward. Her voice calm but fragile. "Evan, do you fear us?" The question hit him harder than expected. 3 alien sisters, powerful, mysterious, unpredictable, but after everything they had shared. After hearing their emotions, touching their fears, seeing the vulnerability in their eyes. "No," he said quietly. "I'm not afraid of you." A warm wave of energy passed through the dome. The crystals brightened, accepting his answer. Sarah exhaled with relief, placing a hand over her heart. Next came Vea, the shy one. She approached him slowly, her steps light as if she walked on clouds. Her voice shook. "When you heard us that night, when you knew we talked about you, did you hate us?" Evan blinked, shocked. "Hate you? Why would I?" Vea looked down. Humans do not like when others speak behind them. Evan stepped closer, speaking gently. "I didn't hate you. I just didn't understand you. That's why I listened. I wanted to know you better." Bae's glowing tendrils lit up with soft pink embarrassment mixed with happiness. The pillars responded again, chiming approval. Then Lyra stepped forward. Her presence felt heavier, more serious. She looked directly into Evan's eyes. "Your answer decides what happens next," she warned gently. "So listen carefully." Evan nodded, heart pounding. Lyra's voice lowered. "Evan, do you want to stay with us?" The clearing fell silent. The question was simple, but carried the weight of a lifetime. He thought of the danger outside, the sisters' strange powers, the strange world they came from. He thought of their trust, their innocence, their fear of being abandoned, and he thought of the moment he truly felt part of something with them. "I want to stay," he said softly. "As long as you want me here." The dome pulsed with golden light stronger than before. The crystals sang louder, vibrating in harmony. The ritual accepted his truth. Sarah wiped a tear from her eye. Vea turned away quickly, trying to hide her glowing cheeks. Lyra stepped closer, speaking with more emotion than he had ever heard from her. "Evan, then we must share our truth too." The sisters joined hands, forming a circle around him. Their combined glow filled the clearing with warm light. Lyra spoke first. "Our tribe is hunted. We were sent away to survive. But survival alone is not enough." Sarah continued, voice steady but emotional. "We need an ally, someone brave, someone loyal, someone who sees us as more than strange creatures." Vea whispered the final piece, "and someone whose heart speaks to ours." Evan felt the air shift again, heavy and warm with emotion. Lyra stepped close enough for him to feel her breath. "We chose you, Evan, before you ever pretended to sleep. Before you ever heard our whispers, we chose you." Evan didn't breathe for a moment. Sarah placed her hand on his arm. "We trust you more than anyone." Vea touched his other arm lightly. "And we want you with us. Not because of survival, but because of connection." The energy inside the dome surged light, swirling around Evan like a warm embrace. The sisters spoke together, their voices perfectly aligned. "Will you stand with us, Evan? Not just today, but for what comes next?" His chest tightened. What comes next? What danger? What future? But when he looked at the sisters, 3 glowing beings who trusted him completely, one answer rose from his heart. "Yes," he said softly, "I will stand with you." The dome exploded into brilliant white light. The ritual was complete, and their bond was now unbreakable. The white light of the ritual faded slowly, like a dying star. Evan blinked as the brightness dissolved, revealing the clearing again. But everything felt different now, deeper, heavier, connected. The sisters stood around him, glowing with the soft warmth of a newly formed bond. He expected them to celebrate, to smile, to breathe in relief. But instead, all three sisters suddenly stiffened. Their glowing patterns shifted sharply from warm gold to warning red dot. Lyra grabbed his arm. They are close. Evan's heart dropped. Who? What's happening? Syrah scanned the forest, her tendrils rising like antennas. The hunters, she whispered. They found our signal. Via shook with fear. They never give up. Never. Evan straightened. Hunters, you mean? The ones chasing your tribe. Lyra nodded, eyes sharp. Yes, and they are not far. We must move now. Before Evan could respond, the crystal pillars around them flickered violently. A deep rumbling echoed from the forest, followed by metallic screeches, unnatural, mechanical, aggressive. Evan instinctively stepped in front of the sisters. Syrah grabbed his shoulder. You cannot fight them alone. Maybe not, Evan said, but I'm not letting them take you. Lyra looked at him with something like pride. We will fight together. They rushed through the glowing forest, weaving through trees and luminous vines. The air grew thicker with tension. Every few seconds, Evan heard branches crack, metal grind, distant voices echo in a language he didn't recognize. Then a sudden blast of red light hit a tree beside them, splitting it in half. Via screamed. They're here. Evan turned to see tall, armored figures emerging from the shadows, sleek black suits with glowing white eyes. Weapons humming with deadly energy. Hunters, 3 of them. Lyra pushed Evan behind her. Stay close. But Evan refused. He stepped beside her. You said we fight together. The hunters advance, raising their weapons. Their voices crackled through mechanical filters. Return the sisters, one said coldly, or die beside them. Syrah clenched her fists, her glowing patterns shifting into a fierce electric blue. We will never return, she spat. Vea trembled, but stepped forward too, her glow turning sharp violet. The hunter aimed directly at Evan. You protect what is not yours. Human. Evan lifted a fallen branch like a spear. I protect my friends. The hunters fired, everything exploded into chaos. Lyra reacted first, her body releasing a shockwave of golden light. The energy deflected the first blast, sending it into the air. Syrah followed, unleashing a stream of blue sparks that struck the ground in front of the hunters. Forcing them back, Evan swung his makeshift spear at a hunter who charged forward. The branch cracked against the metal suit, but it was enough to throw the attacker off balance. Syrah rushed in to support him, using her glowing tendrils to bind the hunter's weapon temporarily. Vea, shaking but determined, raised her hands. A soft violet pulse shot forward, hitting another hunter and staggering him. Good Vea, Evan shouted. She gave a tiny, terrified smile, but the hunters weren't slowing down. One of them slammed a fist into the ground, releasing a shockwave of his own. Evan was thrown backward, hitting the forest floor with painful force. Lyra rushed to him. Evan. He winced, but stood quickly. I'm fine. We keep going. The hunters regrouped, forming a triangle. The sisters belong to us, one growled. They are property. Evan felt his blood boil. No one owns them. Not anymore. The sisters moved forward, forming a protective line around Evan. Their glows intensified gold. Blue violetta, fierce spectrum of alien power. Lyra lifted her hands, releasing a wave of golden force that knocked 2 hunters back into trees. Sierra leaped forward with precise strikes of electric blue light. Vea gathered her courage and released a second pulse. Stronger than before, Evan charged again with whatever strength he had, distracting the remaining hunter long enough for Sarah to disarm him completely. Then silence. The hunters lay defeated, their armor cracked, their weapons disabled. They struggled to stand, but eventually fled back into the shadows, limping and stumbling. The moment they disappeared, Vea collapsed to her knees, trembling. Sierra knelt beside her. "It's over." For now, Evan breathed heavily, looking at the sisters. You're incredible." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her glow returning to a warm gold. "So are you." Evan laughed breathlessly. "I hit one with a stick." Sierra smiled softly. And it worked. But the victory didn't erase the fear in Lyra's voice when she spoke next. This was only the first wave. Evan frowned. "First wave." "They will return," Lyra said. "Stronger, faster, angrier," Vea whispered. "And next time, they may bring a leader." Evan clenched his fists. "Then we stay together, whatever comes." The sisters looked at him, the human who stood with them, fought beside them, trusted them, and in their glowing eyes, one truth was clear. Their bond wasn't just emotional anymore.
The forest was quiet again. Too quiet. The hunters had disappeared into the shadows, but their presence still hung heavy in the air. Evan stood beside the sisters, breathing hard, sweat on his forehead and dirt on his arms. He had fought with everything he had, even if all he had was a broken branch and stubborn bravery. The sisters gathered around him slowly, their glowing patterns shifting back from warning red to soft gold and pink. Lyra touched his arm first, steady and warm. "You fought beside us," she said softly. "Not as a guardian, not as a stranger, but as one of us." Evan smiled tiredly. "I'm not letting anyone take you." Sierra's voice trembled. "You risked your life. A human would usually run, but you didn't." Vea took a small, hesitant step toward him. Her voice was barely a whisper. You stayed." Evan exhaled. "I said I would, and I meant it." The sisters exchanged a look, one filled with emotion, fear, relief, and something deeper they hadn't spoken yet. Lyra glanced back toward the forest. "The hunters will return. They always do. But next time, they will come for all of us." Evan crossed his arms. "Then we prepare." Sierra shook her head gently. "You don't understand. Hunters do not stop. Their leader wants us for our abilities. He won't retreat. He will bring more soldiers, machines, drones. We cannot fight forever." Vea's glowing tendrils dimmed. "We need a path, a future, a place where we can be safe. With you." Evan blinked, surprised. "With me?" Lyra stepped closer, her voice low but steady. "After the ritual, our bond with you is not just emotional. It is real. It is recognized by our energy signatures. If we separate now, it hurts us." Sierra nodded. "Our hearts sync with yours. It happened when you spoke your truth." Vea added quietly, "And when you chose us." Evan swallowed. Chosen. He had chosen them. But he didn't realize the ritual had chosen him too. Lyra took a deep breath, something serious forming in her eyes. "There is a tradition in our tribe," she began. "When a bond like this forms between a human and sisters, the human becomes part of our family." Evan blinked. "Family?" Sierra smiled softly. "It means trust. It means unity. It means you are ours to protect." Vea whispered, cheeks glowing pink. "And we are yours." Evan felt heat rise to his face. He wasn't used to this. Fighting, surviving, helping, yes. But being emotionally claimed by 3 alien sisters, that was new. Before he could react, Lyra gently placed her hand on his chest right over his heartbeat. "You care for us," she said. The stone confirmed it. "And we feel the same." Sira stepped beside him, touching his arm lightly. "We trust you. More than anyone." Vea moved closer, her eyes shining. "And we want you with us. Wherever we go." Evan felt something tight in his chest. They weren't asking for help. They were asking for belonging. He looked at each sister, Lyra's strength, Sarah's intelligence, Vea's gentle courage. They had fought together, cried together, shared fears together. He already knew his answer. "I'm with you," he said softly. "Not just for today. Not just because of danger. I'm with you because you matter to me." The sisters inhaled sharply, almost in unison. Their glowing bodies brightened with warm gold, deep pink, and shimmering blue. They slowly reached forward, each placing a hand on him, Lyra on his shoulder, Sira on his arm, Vea on his chest. All three spoke together, their voices a soft harmony. "Then we begin our future together." The forest lights pulsed softly, as if recognizing their bond. Suddenly, the ground beneath them vibrated low, distant, threatening. Evan tensed. What was that? Sira turned toward the mountain ridge. "They are opening the sky portal. The hunters. And their leader." Vea shivered. "He is coming." Lyra stepped in front of Evan again, protective and fierce. "Do not fear. We face him together." Evan reached out and took her hand. Then Sira's, then Vea's. "I'm not afraid," he said. "I have you." The sisters' glowing patterns danced brighter than ever. They stood there, four silhouettes against the rising energy of the portal, human and alien sisters united, bonded, unbroken, whatever was coming next. Whatever battles, truths, or journeys awaited them, they would face it not as strangers, not as survivors, but as a family. And in that moment, Evan realized something powerful. He didn't just pretend to wake up that night. He had finally